I just wanted to tell you this. This opportunity that we had after we did this charity. Because Kurt Christensen, who coincidentally speaking after me, and he's a pal of mine, and we had a bit of a holiday in Malaysia together. And we said, right, I said, Kurt, I want to go up to the Amazon sometime. And he said, oh yeah, that'll be interesting, because he has a place down in Costa Rica. He said, that will be interesting. I said, yeah, I really want to go to the Amazon. I actually want to see a snake, and I want to see some monkeys not in a zoo, and I want to see stuff. You know, ants and these big things that are bigger than your finger, and just all that stuff. I wanted to see that stuff. Kurt's going, great. And I went away thinking, yeah, it'd be so cool to go to the Amazon. And I was thinking about this Amazon thing. Now, here's what's interesting. I never, ever followed it through. Ever. So I was asked if I would do this charity fundraiser on stage using the internet to raise some cash and give away the check at the end of it. I said, yeah, of course I would. I'd love to. So we flew over to Australia, and we got on the stage. Oh, sorry, no, what happened before we got on the stage? What actually happened was, the story was, there was this event going on in Australia, and they wanted somebody to do this. Fundraiser. So I woke Catherine up at 3 in the morning. I said, Catherine, I've got a brilliant idea. We're going to do this thing, and we're going to replant a rainforest. Now, quite frankly, I didn't have a clue what I was on about. I just woke up and I was writing this stuff down. She's saying, yeah, go to sleep, but it'll be fine. I said, okay, then. So we wrote these ideas down. And before we knew it, we'd had a charity that said they would take the money. Because I hate bureaucracy, I hate the filling in forms, I hate the meetings, I hate the people who say, I'll have to ask them, and they'll ask them, and they'll ask them, and they'll ask them, and then we'll see if it's okay. What a pile of crap. It slows everything down. Life's not about that, is it? And if you're in a critical time and these warnings are flying towards you, you have to take evasive action now. And we got the opportunity to raise some money for charity. I phoned my mate in Australia. I said, listen, we're coming over. I'm going to do this charity thing. Is it okay with you? He said, yeah, it'll be cool. You can do it, Al. Okay. So before we went, we were having loads of grief with charities. Now, I'm not very good at dealing with people on the phone. So people phone up saying, we're from the Rainforest UK charity, and we'd like to have a meeting. You come down, see our directors and all this, just pile of junk. And I said, I am a busy man. I'm not even speaking to that guy on the phone. I said, we'll raise the cash, we'll give the check, but I'm not dealing with all that stuff. So Catherine said, okay, I'll deal with it. So we went through about 5 charities who wanted to do all these meetings and all this corporate stuff before they would tick the box. I wanted to give them a check for 70 grand. And they were absolutely making it so difficult. Now, in 2005, I had said I wanted to go to the Amazon. I had put the thought out there, and I was just doing my own thing. I didn't know anything about the law of attraction, but the thought was out there that I wanted to go to the Amazon, and I was going to go to the Amazon. So I was filming one of my master classes, the 3-day life-transforming weekend we do. I was filming the master class, and the cameraman said, I was talking about this charity thing, and he said, I know some people who work in the Amazon that would be happy. So Catherine said, well, speak to them. So she spoke to them. She said, can we speak to Alan? He said, no, he won't deal with anyone. You either take the check or don't take it. So they said, fine, we'll take the check. And on the back of that, we then got a phone call a couple of months after, said, would you like to come on a trip into the Amazon rainforest? Not to the edge of the rainforest, not 2 miles into the rainforest. We had to fly for an hour into the middle of the rainforest and land on a piece of mud. Just like in the plane, I was thinking we're going to die. I mean, we got on this plane. It was very small, only about 15 people could go in it. There was no seats. You had to sit on the floor and strap yourself in. And there was a soldier at the back, and there was 2 soldiers flying this plane. That was it. So we flew into the Amazon, and we experienced one of the most transforming things I've ever experienced in my life. Now, it kind of came back to haunt me a little bit. Is that the law of attraction happening? I don't know, really. Because I'm not really very good with that kind of stuff. But I can accept it. So I put the thought out there. I was certainly taking some action. And Catherine said, "Are we going?" I said, "No idea. Don't care." Because we had a very busy schedule last year. I said, "I'm not bothered. If we go, we'll go. If we don't, I'm not bothered about flying around the planet again." And I just allowed it to happen. And before we knew it, we were in a mud hut in the middle of the Amazon jungle, living with the Achua tribe, experiencing something absolutely mind-expanding. And I'll tell you just very quickly, because I want to give you some really good tips as well today, just very quickly that it was so nice to meet what I would call real human beings who live according to the laws of humanity and nature. They live according to what they have been given on a daily basis. And they would, if they came here, they'd freak out. They wouldn't get it at all. You know what's interesting? You're told before you go, don't take any plastic, because whatever you drop on the floor, the Indians believe it will decompose and go back into the ground. They don't actually understand what plastic is. So as we're walking up, some people are dropped, because there've been people there before us, had dropped one or two little sweet wrappers, and we were just picking them up. They're just incredible. They don't have breakfast, dinner, and tea, or breakfast, lunch, and dinner, however you say it. They eat when they catch enough to eat that day. And in the meantime, they drink a gooey liquid. They chew all this pulp, and they put it in a bucket which ferments, turns into a type of alcohol, and they put saliva in it. And when you arrive in the tribe, they scoop it out and give you a drink. But you can't really say no. And quite honestly, there's probably worse things happen when you're there. And did anybody see Bruce Parry on TV doing the Amazon program when he took the ayahuasca? Well, we were involved in all that hallucinogenic ceremony, and it was mental. But however, the point I wanted to get to was that these guys live like real human beings should live. They accept what they have, and they make them. And don't get me wrong, these guys do want more. They do want more, and they want to protect what they have, which is their forest. They want to protect it. But it was a fascinating insight into another side of man. And just coincidentally, because I am quite into the mindsets and the way people think and how the brain can be changed and all this kind of stuff, but not with NLP, because I'm certainly not an NLPer by any means. But I am fascinated by that aspect, and what really fascinated me was that they built this small group of 10 grass huts around this swamp, and they had a restaurant. It wasn't really a restaurant. It was a huge grass hut that we went in, and they brought us food. It was all native stuff. It was cool. So we had all this stuff. But what really fascinated me more than anything was somebody had decided that what these Indians needed in the kitchen when they were having their break was a TV. I thought, oh my goodness me. That is where the rot begins. That is where the rot begins. I was horrified, actually. I said to Catherine, they've got a TV. Why have they got a TV? Who's brought a TV in? I don't. And I went to the group leader who took us there, and I said, look, it's nothing to do with me, but they've got a TV. That's their feed from here. This is crapland where we are, going into the jungle. We've got all our wonderful things, haven't we? We've got all the wonderful things we need in life. Mobile, cool phones, cool gadgets. We can go snowboarding, skiing, on a plane, on the internet. I've got an Apple Mac and it's that thick. We've got all our cool stuff. But what about all the toxic teachings that come through TV? The one tip I want to leave you with today, if you only remember one thing when you leave this weekend, is reduce or stop watching TV. It's the best thing I ever did in my life. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I watch some junk. We watched the DVD last night. We try and watch the DVD now and again, called Step Brothers, with Will Ferrell. It was hilarious. But TV, teaching your babies. They're teaching your babies. Trash. Yeah, it's true. And what's interesting, you have these don't get me wrong, I like a naked lady. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But you get these semi-pornographic programs like Hollyoaks. They're taking drugs, they're doing everything else, and I'm not here to preach either. But here's the thing. Who writes that stuff? Who produces that stuff? It's not a 15-year-old man. It's a 40, 50-year-old bloke or woman who's writing that stuff who's feeding your kids. And apart from that, what a massive distraction in our lives. The box in the corner. It's so destructive. That doesn't mean you can't watch the rugby tonight. You can watch the rugby tonight. But that's the last. But fancy seeing a TV in the middle of the Amazon jungle. I was totally horrified. Totally horrified. And we did a lot of other stuff. You know, I really want to stress some of the stuff I did here because I'm going to tell you what kind of work life I used to have. You know, we went swimming in the Amazon River. Now, before we went on this trip, I'm a bit of a baby, I'll be honest, I am. I know I look a big tough guy, right? Right? You lot are a waste of time today. But I'm going to carry on because I'm getting paid. I said, whatever we're asked to do, I'm going to do it. And quite honestly, I'm not a great flyer, really. When we're flying into Colombia, and you're going over the Andes and all that stuff, the plane dropped, crikey, thousands of feet, and I tell you now, I filled my pants. It was terrifying. And that was just one thing, and we got the opportunity to go swimming in the Amazon River. I'm thinking, hang on, crocodiles, snakes, piranhas, they want us to go swimming. And either these Indians were trying to kill us, or they were trying to show to us that you can live in harmony with nature. So there was 23 of us, and we went up the Amazon River in these dugout canoes. And it was so. I just want you to really. You've got to really get the flavour of this now. You've got to really get the flavour. I want you to imagine that the side and this side is packed to the sky with greenery. It's like going down like a really deep valley. Sometimes the river goes narrow, sometimes it's a mile wide. But it is such a magnificent feeling. And you can smell, it smells a bit like soil, like dirt, off the trees. And you see all these big macaws flying everywhere. And you see they have these Amazonian turkeys, which are huge things, which make a racket, which coincidentally you can't eat. Because when you kill them, they give off a toxic odor almost instantly. So this is the most prolific birds in the Amazon, the turkey, because nobody touches them. And even the other animals don't eat them if they catch them. And also, you know, we saw the odd snake on a tree, and we saw a big sloth. You've seen the sloth coming down, doing all this stuff, and it was just wonderful. And then we got to this top part, and they say, right, guys, jump in. Now, if I can't touch the bottom, and I can't see the bottom, you know, like a swimming pool, generally I don't go in. So they all went in apart from 5 of us. I was one of the ones that didn't go in initially. And then I decided to jump in like a big baby, sat on one of those huge tires, like an inflatable tire. Catherine's going, come on. I said, no, I want to live. Because we'd been up there the night before, and we'd seen 3 and 4 meter alligators everywhere. Everywhere. These things are everywhere along the sides. We've seen snakes, water snakes, poisonous snakes, anacondas, boa constrictors. We'd been fishing for piranha. There's one. And they're saying, it's safe. And sometimes you've got to trust people, haven't you? You have to trust. Now, I could see the warning signs and the danger, but I had to trust that these guys were telling the truth. And we went in, and we had life jackets on that we put them on upside down and wore them like a nappy. And we floated all the way down the river for 2 hours. And every now and again, a branch would touch your leg. Ah! Just every now and again. But it was cool. It was so cool. And on that same trip, when we came back, we had the opportunity to ride wild horses. Now, the only animal I would normally go near is my dog. We have a mental labradoodle called Ogilvy. He's beautiful, but he's nuts. And that's it. That is an animal enough for me. So we were staying on the side of this volcano, which had last erupted in 2006. We're staying at the side of this volcano, and we'd had this Ecuadorian dinner the night before. Listen, I really want to share this stuff with you because I just know how much you can transform your life if you take control. And that's what I'm sharing with you. That's the valuable lesson here. And we had these Ecuadorian band come in, and they were playing away, and it was brilliant. And we're all dancing in this kind of crazy place run by a New Yorker on the side of this volcano. And we're all dancing and playing guitars, and Lynn was on the piano, and I was showing myself on the guitar, and it was fun. And in the morning, she said, who wants to go horse ride? So we all put our hand up. I said, okay, I'll go. Well, I didn't actually. Catherine was going. Put my hand up. So I went down in the morning, she said, right, who's ridden the horse? Who's never ridden a horse before? And me, like a total dipstick, like, me, I've never ridden one. And she said, right, what you do is you get on it, to go left you do that, to go right you do that, to stop you do that. And okay, and that was it. Because this is how they live over there. So I jumped on this horse, totally terrified, and we went riding over these volcanoes, which coincidentally had drops at the side of the path of thousands of feet. You can imagine how that feels. I was absolutely terrified, but I allowed the horse to take control and allowed my natural fear to withdraw. I took hold of the fear and just held it there. Because it's interesting, fear, that's another subject we can talk about just for a second. Because it's interesting, what is fear? Fear is the anticipation or the expectation of something that may take place to you in your life before it takes place. So really, you're kind of guessing. So really, fear is actually totally unwarranted. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have fear, does it? We're all frightened. But fear really is an unrealistic thing taking place in your body. But at the same time, of course, fear is one of those natural things built into our DNA, which tells us you are being warned, take some action. So we went riding on these horses, we did all that stuff, and oh man, it was mental. It was the most mental thing I've ever done in my life, go to Ecuador, Colombia, and around the Amazon. And for me, what's exciting for me is it wasn't that long ago, I was still cutting hair in 2003 for a living. I was slogging my brains out. I had 3 salons. At that point, in 2003, I just had one big one, 2,000 square feet. And I was slogging my brains out. And I tell you, it was hard graft. In the last salon, I had 16 staff. And who here has a business on the high street? Anyone? Well, who here has a business? So you know what happens? You get the kind of dryish spells and you get the flush spells, which are great. And when we got a flush spell, we was like, right, loaded, let's do something special. Let's have a holiday, spend some cash. And suddenly when your VAT bill comes in, what happens? You've been there, right? I've been there. You've been there, right? Yeah? One or two of you nodding your head, you've been there. And you've no money for the VAT, you've no money for the pay-as-you-earn. And you think, nuts, I am totally stuffed. And I went through a cycle of this for absolutely years. Every quarter, $7,000 VAT bill had to be paid. Didn't have the money. Had to work our brains out to bring the cash in. Went overdue and overdue and overdue and overdue. The tax man would come into the salon and say, we need to speak to Mr. Forrest Smith. And the girl at reception said, well, he's busy at the moment. And I was busy. I was killing myself. I was literally killing myself, working my brains out 7 days a week so that I could pay all my staff at the end of the week. Because when there was never enough money, they got paid. I didn't. And I'd go to the front. The salon would be packed. And the guy from the Inland Revenue said, are you Mr. Forrest Smith? I said, yeah. He said, you know I was £17,000. Can you write us a cheque today? Now, I'm in a shop here with all my staff. And all the clients are going. And the guys do say to you, if you've been there, you see that white van over there? And I'm going, yeah. They're going, the guys in there are waiting to come in here and empty this business. When can you pay? The stress of going through that year after year was unbelievable. And that's what happened. And we were well off. We had a huge house. We had all the trappings, BMWs, flashy cars, and all the stuff. The irrelevant, meaningless stuff, which was nice at the time, but we had it. But it was a nightmare. And I thought to myself, how on earth am I going to change my life? Because the warning signs were this for me. The warning signs were, I'm going to have to face this every quarter, every year, annually, without fail, that I am going to be faced with taxmen kicking my door down, demanding huge amounts of cash. I was in a cycle, I couldn't get out of the cycle. My back was killing. Hairdressers, by their nature, have bad backs. I was getting to the stage where you like this all day, and on a Saturday we used to run what we call a double column. So normally when you go and get your hair done at the salon, the stylist has a column in the diary that gets filled in. When on a Saturday, because it was so busy, we had the #1 salon in the town, by the way, I'm proud to say, and I'll tell you how we did that, because it's interesting, because it was in the thick of a recession. We were on a double column. So by the end of Saturday, you like this all day, yeah, where you go? Oh, great, I love it. And every time you went in the staff room, you went, and you would drive home like that. And I used to get home on a Saturday, and in fact, I bought a big chair in the end, a wing-back chair I could rest my head on and put a neck pillow on. And I used to sit like that. And my tea used to be brought to me, and I used to go, and then on Sunday, it's back to the bookwork. Monday, and the cycle was relentless. So in the year 1999, I kind of discovered the internet, which I didn't really know anything about. But coincidentally, I'd never heard of something called a copywriter either. I knew nothing about something called marketing. And the only thing I knew about advertising is what the Yellow Pages would try and give me the hard selling when they came into the business. Apart from that, I knew nothing at all. The only book I'd read up until that point was Captain Scarlet and Jaws. Apart from that, I'd not read anything else. And there wasn't much need for protection against a great white shark in the middle of Lancashire, I can tell you. So, this is the way it was going. And I thought, the internet, all this is before the original .com bust. The internet, what can I do on the internet? Can I make money? These guys are making millions of pounds with a domain name. What's actually happening here? So I eventually got this book called Make Your Site Sell in 1999. And I devoured the book. And I thought, well, hang on, because this is one thing people don't know about the internet. If you do not understand how to generate traffic, now I don't mean people visiting your website, I mean pre-qualified buyers that are targeted, that are ready to spend money with you. If you do not generate traffic, you're not going to sell anything. You won't sell a thing. And sometimes people will say to me, we generate 10,000 people a month through our website. And when you ask that question they hate, which is, how much money are you taking? You know, how much? And they go, oh, well, nothing. No, we've not really mastered that yet. But we can do. We got the traffic coming in. But you see what happens here? Traffic and buyers are totally different. And one of the first things I learned online was how to do search engine optimization. So I started doing search engine optimization and getting paid for it in the office upstairs in the salon. That's how it began. But coincidentally, a guy who was an accountant came into the salon and said, who writes your advertising, Al? And I said, well, I write it myself. He said, oh, it's really good. He said, I've been writing advertising for a long time for this computer company I work with. And, you know, I like the stuff you do. Could you create some stuff for us? And I'm thinking, is this guy serious? I thought you just sit down and scribble it down. And the truth was, I wasn't making anything up. I would just find an advert that I liked, sold to me, and copy it. That's what I did. And I thought, well, I'll change that name to the salon name. I'll change some of the words in so it suits our business, etc., etc., etc. Then we'd throw it out there into the marketplace. So this guy came back to me. Excuse me. This guy came back to me and he said, I spoke to the boss, he'll pay you 500 quid for writing him a sales letter. I thought, crikey, I've never even written a sales letter before. So I thought, I better go out and buy a book. And I bought a book called The Ultimate Sales Letter by a guy called Dan Kennedy. And I thought, oh, there's actually a structure to this. It works a certain way. There is such a thing as a headline. And body copy. I didn't know anything about body copy and the close and the trigger words and all the little magic elements that go into sales copy. I'd never heard of it. So I decided to start up a new website, which was called, I think it was called Big Forrest, something like that. So I started a website called bigforrest.com and started selling copywriting services. But I'd never done copywriting. Never even heard of copywriting. But I could do SEO, which meant I would be on the front page of Alta Vista and Yahoo at the time. There was no such thing as Google. And suddenly, I was getting people emailing me and phoning me up, saying, we're looking for somebody to write a sales letter. I think, crikey, I'm going to have to buy another book because I don't know what I'm doing here. So that's what I did. I bought another book on copywriting. I did some research on this stuff, and I managed to find a guy online who is a hugely respected copywriter in the world that I work in, a guy called Michael Fortin. So I contacted this guy in Canada and said, I'm a copywriter. Can I work with you? And he said, yeah. He just said, yeah. So he sent me a load of work the same day. He said, can you have this by tomorrow? I think, crikey, I've got about 5 clients booked in tomorrow. How am I going to be able to do this? So I did it overnight, and I got paid $7,000 overnight. So it kind of spiraled from there, really. So I don't profess to be, one of these professors that have studied the art and craft. However, I do have over 600 testimonials that tell me that I am quite good at what I do. And people do pay me huge amounts to create multi-million pound campaigns, which I'm working on a couple at the moment for a couple of clients. One of the campaigns will do about 3 million. One of the first sales letters I wrote for a client did $1.5 million. And he told me, I'm thinking, crikey, how did that happen? How did it happen? Because you see, when you really write, I don't believe there's such a thing as copywriting. I believe there's such a thing as effective communication. You see, when I used to train my juniors in the salon, I used to say to the juniors, when they used to work with us, we used to generate stylists from juniors 12 months down the path. Do you know how? You used to say to them, you are not a junior when you work in this salon. You are a trainee hair designer. And these kids thought, well, that's cool. And we were the only salon where they didn't have to wear a uniform. And these kids, within 4 weeks of walking on like, and client would come in, we used to have a little kid called Karen, and the clients would come in and say, excuse me, you're the manager, if they'd not been to the salon before. And she would go, no, I'm just a trainee hair designer. And they believed it. They believed that they were what they were about to become. And, the same with writing effective advertising or copy. This is exactly the same. I believed that it was possible to communicate with people. Listen, when we used to have people coming into the salon, we started doing something which was a little bit different. And I kind of picked it up from dentists and doctors, really. And I thought, well, hang on, when a client comes in, why do we stand behind the chair and say, right, what are we doing today? Because you're saying to the client, you tell me what you want me to do. And I thought, well, hang on, you wouldn't go to a dentist and say, I know you've not had a look, but I want 3 fillings down here. Okay. Would you? You wouldn't go to a doctor and say, just cut me open there, I think there's something wrong. Right? And I thought, well, actually, hairdressing's exactly the same. You have to say to the client, tell me your number one problem you have with your hair. And if I can solve it, I'll solve it for you. Listen, guys, you imagine what the women were like then. They're going, you become like some kind of Greek god in their eyes. Because the women used to walk out the salon, they'd be going down the street. We used to take them into the street with a mirror, saying, look at that colour, in a packed town. And they were going, oh, wow. Because it's never about the hair, is it? It's about looking drop dead gorgeous. Isn't it? You want to walk down the street and all the guys go, oh, she is gorgeous. Don't you? And if you're a woman and you don't want that, it was mental. And I thought, I can translate this into the way I write. Communicate effectively. So when you write your sales piece, you say to them, if it's somebody looking for the perfect life transforming solution from the endless, pitiful, nauseating, sickening, absolutely office job. You would write a piece of copy that would say to them, are you ready to transform your life and slam the door on your office job forever? Because I know exactly how you feel. I was in the corporate industry for 19 years, and I would leave the office every day with blood seeping out of my fingers. And the day I left was forced because I had a heart attack. And if you carry on the same path, it's possible that you could be going exactly the same way. So in other words, you go inside the mind of the reader, your prospect. I don't care what you're selling. You're selling fishing equipment. How would you feel landing a 27-pound leather carp? That's what fishermen are like, aren't they? Yeah, of course they do. Going to the canal today? Whew. That's what they want. You're feeding the mind. We used to pay £500 for scissors. £500 for scissors. But they were never sold as scissors. They were sold as samurai swords. Because they went through the same tempering process as a samurai sword would go through. And we never used to do haircuts. We used to say, look, I've listened for 20 minutes, I've listened. I absolutely promise you, if you're not happy, you won't have to pay. I promise you, you will walk out of the salon today feeling unbelievable. And do you think they used to ask what the price was? Never. They used to say, I feel like crap. Make me look and feel amazing. And they did. So that's what copy is. Effective communication on a level that absorbs into place in their brain. Let me have a quick look at my notes. In 2003, I got to a stage where, quite honestly, I'd had enough. I'd absolutely had enough. I'd absolutely, unbelievably had enough. My back was killing. We were facing so many problems with tax people. I began to hate people, hate staff, hated them. Even I said to the manager, I said, I'm not dealing with staff anymore. That's my chair. I cut hair. You deal with them. I hate them. Because they become so bitter and twisted. Yeah, staff rip you off, steal from you, take your money. I'm skint, they're getting paid. Sharon just bought a brand new car. I'm driving a old Mini. That's how it had really become. I thought in 2003, well, I thought way before that actually, but I thought 2003 I took some action. I thought, I am going to do something so dramatic that my family will freak out. And I said to them, I'm walking away from everything. I hate it. It's killing me. And they said, you're mental. I said, I don't care. Because I can see the warning signs. And I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to live till 50. If I carry on like this, I will be dead before I'm 50. I could feel it. Remember I was telling you about that thing there? You can feel it like, I could feel it taking place. My life was being totally sucked out from me. So I decided to change my mind and literally transform my life beyond belief. I've been to the Amazon with a laptop. I've taken $91,000 in orders while I was sitting on a beach in Malaysia. We were sat there watching 2-meter lizards walking past, while on the other side of the beach there was these huge monkeys jumping onto the sand, picking up the stuff to eat it. And I took $91,000 in orders. I've taken money when I've been in flight. I've got off at the other end. There's been orders in my email. We've done some unbelievable things. We have transformed people's lives. It's so exciting for me. It's so exciting for me. I said, Dave, you need to think different. You need to stop doing it. Look, the same things that were working 5 years ago are not going to work in this climate. No way. There's no way. You need to start to think different. Develop new ways of thinking. Become more open-minded. If you feel the attraction thing is for you, you need to tighten with the other 2 laws. You have to think differently. We show you exactly how to go through that process so that when you leave, you'll understand exactly, so this is how it's done. So this is how you think. So this is a successful path I should take. Because let's face it, success does leave traces. It does leave footprints. It does leave a guide there already for you to follow. So sadly, if you go to Mount St. Helens now, there is actually a stone, a carving, a monument dedicated to Harry Truman. But that's all that's there. That is all that's there. Because Harry Truman saw the danger, he heard the warnings, he totally ignored them, and he paid with the price of his life. You, me, are living in similar times. We're seeing the warnings daily in the newspaper, on the news, in the media, in the press, on the radio, on the internet. Are you heeding those warnings? Or will you end up another Harry Truman? Thanks very much.
I've just come down from the Isle of Skye.
Well, thank you very much to Alan. And that was, again, wonderfully inspiring and uplifting. I took down a little note there because it was a bit about the theme of today. And I don't know how many of you wrote this down. Are you ready to transform your life and slam the door on your office job forever? There's one person in this audience I've asked this question to a number of times, slightly differently. And maybe when he hears this, he might have an answer. Because when somebody asks the word when, that is actually in looking for a specific date. A little bit like our appointment at 11 o'clock on Monday to start writing our book. Why don't you just, for 2 seconds, sit down? If any of you have this idea, write the date down now. Because that is the date, that's your goal. And then start taking the massive action to get there. Please do that for me. Do it for you, do it for yourselves, because then you've got something really, really valuable out of this. Now, rather than going into specific details of what Kurt Christian's going to go through, if you look behind me, it's quite simple.